Here's the full detailed story of the Snowtown bodies in barrels murders, one of the most disturbing and infamous cases in Australian history. The Snowtown bodies in barrels murders, 1992-1999. Between 1992 and 1999, a group of killers led by John Justin Bunting committed 11-12 murders across South Australia. The crimes became infamous after police discovered 8 bodies stored in barrels of acid inside a disused bank vault in the small town of Snowtown in 1999. The case shocked Australia, not only for its brutality, but also because the killers targeted their victims under the guise of social cleansing, claiming they were eliminating pedophiles, homosexuals, and others they deemed undesirable. The main perpetrators, John Justin Bunting, B. 1966. The ringleader, often called Australia's most sadistic serial killer, harbored an obsessive hatred for pedophiles and homosexuals, using it to justify murders. Manipulative, charismatic, and dominant over his accomplices. Robert Joe Wagner, B. 1971. Bunting's loyal follower, actively participated in torture and killings. James Vlasakis, B. 1979. The youngest member, initially a victim of abuse himself, he later became complicit and directly involved in some murders, eventually turned state's evidence. Mark Ray Hayden, B. 1958, helped with disposal of bodies, stood trial but was convicted of assisting, not murder. Timeline of events. Early crimes, 1992-1995. Bunting lived in Salisbury, North Adelaide. He began assembling his inner circle, cultivating hatred for those he labelled as pedophiles or weak. His first known murder was Clinton Trezise, 1992, beaten to death and buried in a shallow grave. Escalation, 1995-1997. Victims included people within their circle of acquaintances. Many were tortured for days, beaten, burned, or forced to provide bank details and welfare information. Bunting encouraged group involvement, fostering a cult-like loyalty. The barrel killings, 1997-1999. Bodies were stored in 55-gallon barrels filled with acid to slow decomposition. In May 1999, after a tip-off, police raided a disused bank in Snowtown, uncovering 6 barrels with 8 human remains. In total, 12 victims were linked to the group. Victims ranged from acquaintances to partners, and even relatives of the killer's associates. Notable names include Clinton Trezise, 1992, first victim; Ray Davies, 1995; Michael Gardner, 1997; Barry Lane, 1997; Elizabeth Hayden, 1998, wife of accomplice Mark Hayden; Troy Yude, David Johnson, Suzanne Allen, Gary O'Dwyer, and others. Common motives: robbery of welfare benefits, silencing of perceived threats, or Bunting's obsession with cleansing society. Arrest and trial. 1999, police found the barrels and remains in Snowtown, as well as other graves in nearby towns. 4 men were arrested: Bunting, Wagner, Vlasakis, and Hayden. The trial, 2003, became the longest in South Australian history, lasting almost a year. Sentences: John Bunting, 11 consecutive life sentences without parole; Robert Wagner, 10 consecutive life sentences without parole; James Vlasakis, life imprisonment minimum 26 years after testifying against the others; Mark Hayden, 25 years for assisting, not murder. Legal and social impact. Highlighted gaps in Australia's welfare system. Many victims' benefits were claimed by the killers. Exposed disturbing levels of community silence and fear in small towns. Raised questions about how group dynamics can fuel collective violence. Media and culture. The murders inspired books, documentaries, and the controversial 2011 film Snowtown, also known as The Snowtown Murders. The movie was praised for its raw realism but criticized for being extremely disturbing. Updates through 2025. Bunting and Wagner remain incarcerated in South Australia, both serving life without parole. Vlasakis, now in his mid-40s, is still imprisoned. Parole eligibility is decades away. Mark Hayden completed his sentence for assisting in 2024 and is reported to have been quietly released, though details are kept private for safety. The town of Snowtown still struggles with the stigma of being associated with the case, despite locals having no involvement. Many residents prefer not to speak about it, and the old bank has been demolished. Academics and criminologists continue to study the case as an example of group psychopathy and social manipulation. Legacy. The Snowtown murders remain Australia's worst serial killings by number of victims. A chilling example of murder motivated by ideology, greed, and sadism. A case that forever tied the name Snowtown to horror, despite the murders occurring in multiple towns across South Australia.